We are joined by the criminal court clerk, Mr. Gentry. Mr. Gentry, if you would, please introduce who you have with you and then make any comments you have on the mayor's budget proposal.
Good evening. I'm Howard Gentry. I'm the criminal court clerk, and I have with me a very familiar face to all of you, Tommy Bradley. He is my chief clerk, and he is the chief. And as it relates to the mayor's budget proposal, we did experience a small cut, and we are able to live within that figure, and we will be effective and efficient as a result of it. Years I heard people sit here while I sat up there and say that same thing, and I wondered if I would ever say that, and absolutely I can. So we're very pleased to be in the position we're in. I've been there now almost 9 months, right, Tommy?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
about 9 months, and it's a great department. We've got employees that work very hard, and they're very good at what they do. They take it very seriously, and a lot goes on in the criminal court office. And we have people that are highly capable of handling the business, and I'm very proud to be a part of that operation. We have a lot that has taken place over the time that I've been there, and a lot of it started before I got there. But before I go there, I do want to say something that's very important, and that is that we had projected to come in at around $5.2 million in our revenue. And at this point, we're at $5.4 million and still have a few more months to go. So we feel very good about the revenue that we are earning for this city, for this government. And also, we will, as we always have, come in well under budget. So our office financially and fiscally is being run effectively and very efficiently. As you know, last year, the council asked for an audit, and that audit was completed shortly after I came into office. And we have we have satisfied over 80% of what that audit asked us to do. And even in that 20%, there are areas that are going to take a little time as it relates to the technology functionality of our financial side of the office. So we feel very good about it. And what we really feel real good about is the fact that there was no question or no finding with the functionality of the office and the performance of our staff. So we consider that a real plus. We also have created an employee handbook and we rolled it out in December of last year. And so we're acting under the employee handbook. We've got a salary plan that has been completed. We haven't put it totally in effect yet, but it has been completed. Also, we have an aggressive expungement and driver's license initiative that we are taking to the community on now. It appears a weekly basis, and our expungements have increased from around 9,000 to around 14,000. I keep looking at Tommy. He's the number man. I just want to make sure I'm right as I go. He's my new Don Jones. Well, I guess not anymore. But the fact is that that program is working very good for our office, and also it's a plus for the city. So we feel real good about where we are. We feel real good about where we're going, and more so just excited to work in a department with people that have such great ability and skill, and I'm just proud of them. So I entertain any questions.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Tigard, you're recognized.
Thank you. My standard question about the number of cell phones in your office.
We have 4 cell phones, Councilman, and 2 air cards. The 4 cell phones are utilized by members of our leadership team. I do not have one, paid for by Metro. And the air cards are for our technology person who is on call 24 hours and utilizes a computer outside the office, and also the person who manages our many of our customer service operations.
Fleet requirements?
We have 1 fleet car that is way over mileage, and I do not have keys to it. And it is utilized by our people who work in the archives, and they move back and forth off-site. And so they move back and forth from our off-site facilities.
All right, I'm going to ask a question, and if I'm out of line, you can take the fifth or decline to answer.
Be careful, because I'm going to answer it.
You campaigned for this position. I don't know if you knew what the upper end of the salary was or the lower end that your predecessor ended up at, but part of our budget includes an enhancement. Do you have a thought on that enhancement?
I have a thought on it. The thought is that the salary prior to the council choosing to reduce it by 10% was at $125,000. I expect that to be, and hope that that will be put back, that salary made whole. I think it's a fair thing to do. I think in my 9 months that I have served, I hope that I've proven that I'm going to earn that money, every penny of it. I did take in consideration that it could not be replaced, but I just don't believe that there is reason that it would not be, and I hope that it will. Our budget will support it. It did support it, and it will support it in the future. And yes, it would be helpful in my future.
Thank you. Councilman Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Yes, just wanted to ask a question about your revenues, and thank you so much for being concerned with driving the revenue growth. I assume most of your revenues come from court fees and that sort of thing. And what is your expected revenue? It looks like it was going to jump, even if you come in at 5.4, you were going to jump to 5.7 as an estimate. I'm just kind of wondering, where your estimates are coming from, and just generally where most of your fees are coming from. Thank you.
Okay, well, Tommy, why don't you take that?
Turn your mic on, Tom.
It's on.
You are on. Go ahead.
Is it on?
Yes, sir.
We projected about $480,000 in increase in revenue. You have to understand that we're dealing with those individuals who've been charged with criminal offenses, and the costs are not assessed until after court. So we have to be aggressive as we can to get those people to pay. We have to rely on them paying. There's very limited options the courts have if they fail to pay. I know you talked to Mr. Rook earlier about some collection agency activities and things like that. So we try to be a little conservative in our estimates because we have to rely on those defendants making those payments, and we have limited options to recover.
And we are back-end recovery, a little different than Mr. Rooker. We get them after they leave the courtroom.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lady Berry, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is the $38,000 discretionary budgetary improvement that you've got allocated here, and I think you say in your letter that that's going to provide for collection efforts. We just spent some time talking about collection efforts. Can you talk about what that's going to look like? Is that going to be housed in your office? Is that going to be, just kind of give me an overview.
We had asked for 2 positions, and specifically one to enhance our collection efforts. When I moved into the office, I found out that through budget cuts, we've lost 16 employees over the same period of time Mr. Rooker was talking about. The collection, division of our department had been pretty much dismantled. We have found that there are some efforts that we can undertake in-house to improve it. Now, the truth is that the courts and other fees and fines equal to almost $44 million a year, so one person could not in any way handle that, so we'll be using outside collection agencies really probably always, but we will have a position that will help us to enhance the in-house collections, and it should show up on the revenue side. To say that it will reduce the amount that we give to an outside agency, I can't say that, because the truth is, if we're only collecting 30%, I'd like to see 60, 90% collected, so that'll give them more to do and really give us more to do. But Tommy, you might want to add to that, but that's where we are.
Great, thank you. That answers that question. And my second question is, you mentioned that you've lost 16 employees over a period of time. How many dollars in your budget has that also included? Do you know what the total budgetary reduction has been during that time period?
I have to get that to you. I'm sorry, I just don't know.
That's fine.
We don't
Is
know
that,
it right now. But
are we talking $1 million, $2 million, $20 million, $100 million?
I don't have that history, so
Okay.
we would have, but we will get that.
That would be great. I'd
information
love to
you.
just see what the reduction has been over that time period.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Stein, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to talk briefly about the $11,200 salary adjustment. I was the sponsor of the legislation in the last council that stripped that from the criminal court clerk's job, and it was very specific in that council. It was geared towards the individual in that job. The salary adjustment has nothing to do with the person that is in it now or will be in it in the future. Under state law, a circuit court clerk and a criminal court clerk that have a size of business that are allowed, and I guess that's here, serve more than one court, and I suspect that's here and in Memphis and Chattanooga and Knoxville and probably nowhere else. Those positions are all have the ability to be raised by that amount or to be at that amount. What we did back a couple of years ago was absolutely designed to be retribution for what we thought was inappropriate behavior, and that's why the council, I believe, unanimously voted to adjust the salary downward. I think it is only fair that position, not the person in it, but that position go forward, be funded as their counterparts are in the rest of the state and as the circuit court clerk. And that's why this is a fairness issue now that we've cleared up the problems in that office. And again, doesn't have anything to do with the individual, but it has to do with the position itself. And I think it's a fair thing for us to do to put that money back into the position as it goes forward for the rest of the city's history.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lady Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair McGuire. I just want to express appreciation to you, Mr. Gentry, on coming in a difficult situation and running the office efficiently and effectively, bringing an increase in revenue to the general fund, and just making us as a city proud of that office. And so I have no problem in supporting you being reinstated, because that is the right thing to do, especially with what you have demonstrated in terms of what you've accomplished in the short amount of time that you have been in this position. So I just want you to know that the people in my district and others within Nashville really appreciate your hard work, and we look forward to supporting your budget.
And thank you very much. And I will accept the credit for being in a leadership role, but I also want to state that the positive figures that you see are the result of the great work of our employees. Thank you very much.
Councilman Claiborne, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Would you say to me again how much money that your collections are that we're not? You said, I think, 400 million?
44 million.
44 million.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, 44 million.
Yes.
And so we're collecting 30% of that.
Somewhere around that at the end of the year. And, you know, it's a tough situation, and if you would look at the financial makeup of our customers, our clients, you will find that a high percentage, matter of fact, amazingly high percentage are indigent and unable to really make payments. So it's not because of poor collection efforts or faulty system, even though I think we can always do better. It's a tough group to collect from because they just don't have the resources.
Okay, so that's we're collecting about a little over 13 million out of 44 million.
You're right.
So that's a significant amount. And so the next question you just cleared up, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money
to just leave dangling out there.
Yeah. Well, we don't assess. Our job is just to.
But I mean, the collection agency. Who are the collection agencies? Do you use the same agency that they?
Oh yeah, we do. We utilize the Metro.
Use the same
contracted
law firm
agency.
or a different firm or?
Same, absolutely.
The same law firm.
Yes, and I don't think that. Well, you know, I'll have to say that their numbers are better this year than last year, and they've been consistent over the time that I have looked at it in their collection efforts. And if I go back, and Tommy, you can go back in history a little farther, I don't know that anybody's done any better. I just think that it's a hard collection, and we might need to, now that's not to say we can't do better, but we might need to look at, as a government over time, putting extra resources and priorities into collection efforts within all of our offices, and it's got to be revenue driven, our budget driven. We just can't create a collection agency within our offices without having resources to do it.
Right. And I understand the indigent part of what you just said, but I think it would be helpful to us as a council if you could request your agency to give us some bullet points of the difficulties that they experience in being able to collect these funds over and above the indigent aspect of it.
We can request that.
Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you.
Council Lady Bennett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Gentry. I can't help but think that while I respect the fact that someone has made a mistake in their life and they are hopefully trying to get better, these fees are part of their punishment, and they're responsible for those. Are we using the collection agency at all on these?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I kind of got the impression we weren't.
No.
So.
We're using the agency. As a matter of fact, we actually make the first contact. We send out a letter, and then, we send out a letter, three contacts.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start the process.
Okay.
But we have the same struggle, and you're going to get into this, but we have the same struggle General Hospital has, and others who deal with the population of people that just don't have resources. It is a tough situation, and so you have to take tough measures, and you've got to have more people and more resources to be able to collect from people who are difficult to collect from, and we don't have those resources.
Agreed. So that sounds good that you're using the collections.
Yes.
Can you give us feedback about what your percentages kind of look like of what's going to collections and what's actually being collected?
I'm going to let Tommy answer that because he's been working with this for a while.
And if you want to send that to us by email later, that is fine, because we're really asking you off the cuff. I realize that.
Well, but he's actually been studying this, yes.
I can actually answer some revenue questions for you now. As far as the amounts we've sent to them over the last several years, I can get those numbers to you.
Okay.
It's quite substantial, I have to admit. In calendar year 2011, not fiscal, but calendar year 2011, the collection agency turned over to Metro for criminal court-related matters, just our office-related matters, a little over $1 million. They average about $89,000 a month. Our goal, Mr. Gentry and I met with them in December to discuss 2012 goals. Our goal with them for 2012 was to average $95,000 per month to our office. So far, they are $120,000 per month, so they're well above target. So they're very aggressive in their efforts. I have to admit, I know General Sessions Court was talking earlier about some collections. There's a collaborative effort between us and the collection and probation docket, and that is helping. Because we work with that docket in conjunction with the collection agency. It's all part of a collaborative effort. So,
And I'm assuming we're offering them like slow pay or
absolutely.
Yes.
you know, anything we can get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Judge Moreland's very careful and cautious about seeing who's actually truly indigent. Does he reduce some or all? Do partial payments? I mean, he gives them very careful consideration. And if there's some money to be paid there, then he'll work that out with them and then, waive them if they're truly indigent.
Okay,
Thank you.
Council Lady Gilmore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gentry, could you explain the expungement process that you alluded to earlier and the collections? Do you mind?
Yes, you mean expungement in the driver's license?
Yes.
Well, I guess it's all about collections. The fact is that if a person has a record that is not a guilty plea, in very small percentage, you can plead guilty conditionally and have that expunged. But anything that is not a guilty plea that has been properly satisfied financially and also based on what the terms of are that the court ordered. If all that has been taken care of, a person can have their record expunged from through our office, from the system. And so a person has to ask for it, though, them or their attorney. We can't do it without their request. So we have, matter of fact, Tommy was doing this before I came. We just stepped it up. But Tommy was going out to the community, to Goodwill, Martha O'Brien, and other places to give this type of education to the public. And what he was doing, or he does do, and as it relates to driver's license issues, the same thing. He gets the names, or we get the names of as many names as we can prior to going out, and their dates of birth. And so we have their records with us when we go, and the expungement forms, and we're able to take care of a lot of that on the spot. Now, if they owe money, that we don't collect money on the spot, but they have to come into the office and do that. And so we're starting to pick that up now. We have partnered with Metro Schools. We've already been to Glencliff and Maplewood. We had over 300 people at Glencliff, and Maplewood about the same. And we're starting to do this more aggressively now. We've been to organizations that have people returning from prison, and all types of organizations where people just don't know. And it's amazing how many people just don't know. When I see judges out there, when you say dismissed on cost, a lot of folks just get excited about dismissed and they forget about the cost. And once that time runs, they end up with suspended license or what have you. They just don't know, don't think about it, or ignore it. And we have found it being very successful going out and meeting the public where they are. We still take people inside too.
Thank you. Councilman Pridemore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Let's digress a minute and go back to collections.
For some reason, I think I shouldn't have mentioned that. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Criminal court clerk. Criminal court means you deal a lot with felony cases. Is that correct?
Well, we have felons. We don't necessarily deal with cases.
Well, the felons.
Yeah.
Felons, if convicted, if the Attorney General, Tory Johnson, is doing his staff is doing his job, they will get convictions, correct?
Correct.
So if they get convictions, the person involved will be going to jail, into a federal prison, a prison or a state institution. Correct. There's not much chances of them paying their fees and responding to a collection agency if they're arrested. So what I'm saying here is I'm just responding. There might be some question as why we're not collecting a lot of this. Well, if the state attorney general is doing their job, you can't collect blood from a turnip.
Well, that's true, and you have a lot of people that are homeless. Right. And, of course, people with limited means move a lot. So there are a lot of issues that take place, and I think somebody asked for those kind of bullet points. I think Councilor Bennett, somebody asked for those bullet points. You'll see probably in those responses that type of situation occurs more than we want to know, and it makes it difficult.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Blaylock, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question also about collections. By adding this additional person, how much revenue do you expect them to bring in?
I talked to Tommy about that, and we really couldn't say exactly, but this is not going to satisfy you, but this is a starting point. I guarantee you they will bring in more than they get paid. And the other side of that is we think we could probably, what did we say, about 250,000. Tommy, did we talk about that figure that possibly could be reasonable?
It was closer to 150.
150. That looks reasonable. We really don't know, but what we do know is that it would be significantly more than the salary. So in that case alone, I can justify it budget-wise, but that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is create the beginning of a system internally that could become bigger and more effective as time goes. But you can't start until you do. And so we feel that this person could assist in generating, about $150,000. And if they do, that is a good start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Claiborne, you're recognized.
Thank you. Is there an administrative fee for an expungement?
Only on certain expungements. Majority of the,
Only about 1%.
yeah, about 1%. The majority are free.
Okay, so some of the other counties around us charge fees for expunging records, court records. Why do we not charge?
I don't think we've actually discussed this with Metro Legal. We don't think it's appropriate to be able to charge fees. There's no requirement by state statute for us to be able to charge a fee.
Is there a requirement for us not to?
I think I had to check with Metro Legal again, but I don't think we're allowed to charge a fee based on a dismissal in a case.
Well, I would not do it without some legal movement by a counselor or some authority. If we don't have the written authority to do it, I would rather have some type of authority if we did entertain it.
Mr. Cooper, do you have any idea if there's a reason not to?
They were not found guilty, so I mean that would be the reason. I mean, if they are not found by the court to be guilty or enter a guilty plea, then we would not have any legal basis to charge them any fee for any reason.
Okay.
That would be unconstitutional.
So the ones that you charge the fees to are the ones who were found guilty?
And court costs can be charged to persons who are not guilty.
Okay, thank you.
Council Lady Gilmore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to see the new state law that allows for the expungement after 5 years. Is that something that's handled with you guys now? Okay, and so are you offering information to persons to let them know that if they've been out of trouble for 5 years, that they can have their records expunged now if they pay a fee? And I think that is done for a fee. The state made that law, and I just wanted to see what your efforts were with that. Thank you.
I'm smiling because I'm going to joyfully defer this to Tommy to let him struggle through that one.
Thank you, Council Lady. I was very involved in discussion with this legislation. It is a very complicated piece of legislation, and we've actually asked Metro Legal for an opinion to help us understand this entire process. There's questions about the fee structure. There's questions about the process as it begins. I'll try to be brief, but I think there's actually a section in there that says the actual defendant should start with the district attorney's office in requesting and applying for an expungement. Then at that point, that person is supposed to come to our office to actually file it, at which point we turn around and turn it right to the DA's office for a response. I think it's just so convoluted and there's so many questions and concerns about the fee that we're actually waiting for an opinion from Metro Legal before we start explaining it to people so we have a better understanding of it as well.
Thank you.
Council Lady Moore, you're recognized.
Just a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Council Lady Gilmore, do you have a follow-up? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. You're such a gentleman. I appreciate you. So in the future, if we get that situated, I just wanted to say that I would love for you to come and work with my community, because I represent a diverse community, and I think that they could benefit from some of the programs that you've had or that you're having. If we could do that,
well,
that's all.
We do, and that bill does not have to be passed for us to still come and work with the community.
Okay, in my district specifically.
Yeah, with your district.
All right.
Yeah, we can do that now.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Appreciate you.
Council Lady Moore, you're recognized.
Just a quick question. So after 5 years, if they have a guilty plea, and after 5 years, they can get their record expunged by applying to the DA's office, or explain the process to me.
Well, that's what it says, but it is really undergoing some evaluation because there's a lot of things it's saying that doesn't necessarily jive with a smooth process.
Yeah, it relates to very specific offenses. There can't be any additional arrests after that 5-year period. There's a lot of steps that have to be met before you can even make that application. And that's what we've asked Metro Legal for that opinion on.
I would like more information as well.
And we will.
Thank you.
Council Lady Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair McGuire. Again, I'm going to piggyback on some of these questions. The meetings that you've been holding throughout the city with Don Diener and your office, are those community meetings that would enable you to be able to share some of this new information? Is that something you're going to be doing on a regular basis? Because the people in Cane Ridge were very excited that you all offered that.
We're only dealing with expungements and driver's license at those meetings. I mean, you know, the more we get into, what we don't want to do is falsely have someone feel that we can accomplish anything else at that meeting at that time.
Okay.
So we have been pretty focused on just driver's license and expungements at those meetings, and really ahead of time trying to inform the public that that's the only thing we're dealing with, because again, we don't want a room full of people thinking that we're going to be able to deal with some issues that they truly have and not be able to help them. And don't you believe? Yeah. And so now in the future, we can probably do some more education. But when we go out right now, it is strictly expungements and driver's license.
Okay,
issues.
so once, Mr. Bradley, you get the additional information as requested, then we can look at future meetings being planned within our various communities?
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other members in my queue, Mr. Gentry, Mr. Bradley, we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.